Blackstone Publishing presents The Crossing, a novel by Jason Mott. This book is read by Amy Landon, Adam Verner, and John Lescault.
Launch. The whole world was dying, but still everyone made time for one last war. The disease had entered its 10th year, and the war had entered its 5th, and there didn't seem to be any cure in sight for either of them. Some people said that because of the nature of the disease, the older generation, seeing that their end was finally near, decided to settle all the old scores, one final global bar fight before last call. The world had already lost 20% of its population by the time Tommy and I began our trip. The disease took the old, killing some, simply putting others into a long, soft slumber. And the war took the young, and everyone else tried to lose themselves in whatever they could. Drugs, alcohol, sex, science, art, poetry. Everyone had impetus and direction now that everything was falling apart. When it all first began, Tommy and I were too young for the war, and far too young for the disease, so we only walked in the shadow of it all, watching and waiting for our turn. Our parents were already dead, and we didn't have any other family. We'd never lived long enough to catch the disease, so we viewed it with a detached interest and sympathy. The disease started in Russia, but because Russia tends to be tight-lipped about what happens within its borders, it's been difficult for anyone to say just how long it had been happening before the rest of the world found out about it. The UK was the first country beyond Russia to notice the outbreak. It began in a retirement home in London, where one morning the staff went to their patients' rooms to find all of them asleep and unable to be awakened. Within hours, there were reports coming in from other countries about the extremely elderly falling asleep and never waking. The disease garnered a lot of different names in those first frightening weeks. The lullaby, the long good night, sundowner's disease. The last one was meant to make fun of the elderly. After all, those at the end of life were expected to pass away eventually. So for a while, the world was concerned, but not alarmed. It wasn't until the disease had been quietly shutting the doors on the oldest of the population that someone at the CDC noticed a decline in the average age of the disease's victims. Something that began affecting only those in their mid-90s and above.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?